Record. Button. Stop. Duration. Stop. Button.
Yes, now it has started.
Hello there. This is your friend and host, Prasanna Kumar Kincha, extending a very warm and cordial welcome to you on this show. Friends, on this show, we have something exceedingly exciting in store for us, for you. And I'm really very happy to be able to tell you that I have with me a very young friend of mine, a highly talented gentleman, one Rahul Bajaj, who is a Rhodes Scholar, currently pursuing his higher studies in law at the Oxford University. Incidentally, he happens to be so far the only totally blind person to have gotten this rare distinction in the country. I think many of us probably do not know, even I didn't know till some time back, that from across the country every year, only 5 persons are selected for this coveted scholarship, and therefore I think Rahul, having been selected, has done not only himself and his family, but the entire blind community a huge honor. He is a guy who is endowed with extraordinary qualities of both head and heart. And let me tell you that I have been interacting with Rahul for the last 5-6 months through exchanging long voice notes through WhatsApp. And we have been discussing any number of issues associated with persons with blindness in particular and persons with disabilities in general. Initially, we thought that we could post some of that on my YouTube channel, but later on we felt that some of the issues that we discussed were highly sensitive, and they cannot probably be put in the public domain because they may be some of them, or a section of the people may misunderstand them or misinterpret them. So this explains why we have actually decided to record a conversation, and I do hope that Rahul will, though he hardly ever finds himself at a loose end from dawn to dusk, will find time on and off, or at least at periodic intervals, to come on the show. Rahul, appreciate you joining me here, and hope that our listeners and viewers will feel greatly inspired by you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here, and even more so to have been given the warm welcome that you have given me. I'm really grateful to you for your generous praise. I'm not sure to what extent I am deserving of it, but I'm grateful to you nonetheless. Thank you very much, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation because, as you've said, our conversations in the last few months have really been as perhaps more insightful and useful for me, but than they may have been for you. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you more.
So let me correct you here. I think the insights that we have been sharing with each other have been equally or perhaps even more useful for me than for you. And my interaction with you has once again strengthened my conviction that we, the so-called senior people or elderly people, can also learn a lot of things from guys like you. And I consider my friendship with you, and I know that age is no barrier to friendship. I know that maybe I am double the age of yours, or maybe more than double the age of yours.
Yes.
Nevertheless, the exchanges that we have been having have been great. Rahul, what we will do today is that we'll kind of undertake an unstructured discussion, and there will be a free flow. We'll be talking about issues associated with the blind, or for that matter with persons with disabilities in general. But before I get into that, and maybe I will put you on the driving seat later, but first I have a few questions for you, because I believe that the blind community in general and the younger generations of the blind in particular would love to know certain things about your life. So I know that you throughout your career, you always studied in a so-called mainstream school or a general school.
Yes.
And that too, perhaps without the aid of brain, right?
Yes.
Now, if you ask me, Rahul, I am a person who is blind since birth, and I cannot imagine studying without brain. The very fact that you not only studied in a mainstream school, but you studied without the help of the brain. So, what I actually wish to know is what, according to you, is the secret of your success that you have been able to come thus far in life?
That I think is a really loaded question, and I am not even sure if I would call myself successful yet, because there is much that I still have to do. But what I can nonetheless share is a few insights about how my sort of journey has been so far. So, as you said, I studied in a mainstream school in Nagpur, which was, however, funded by the Blind Relief Association. So, in that sense, to an extent, the thinking in my family was that there would be greater sensitivity about disability-related issues in that school, which is why I studied there. Now, in the initial years, mostly I would rely on sighted help. So basically, tutors who would come not just in the initial years. In fact, throughout, people who would come home and read out whatever I needed to learn out to me, and then I would just repeat that, and that is how I was able to grasp whatever I needed to. In addition, like assistive technology like JAWS and things like that had emerged by that time, but in Nagpur at least we were not aware of it for a fair amount of time to come. So it was only when I was in 6th grade in around 2006 that I actually started learning JAWS, and that really opened a whole new world for me in terms of making me more well equipped to learn more. And I wasn't just confined to what I was taught in class, and therefore that from a school perspective, from an educational perspective, that was a huge game changer. Then after that, I decided to study law in Nagpur, which kind of looking back I do regret now, because at that time I thought that I should not go and study outside my hometown. It would be too difficult, accessibility wise, in terms of the disability friendly how those law schools were. But then after a point I began to realize that I was really not utilizing my potential fully. It was kind of going down the drain, as it were, because I was stuck here. But still I tried to pursue whatever opportunities came my way and to create opportunities as I went along. And then finally, after I finished studying law and worked in Delhi for a year, the Rhodes opportunity arose and I applied for it, and then went to Oxford, where I currently am. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's just a brief sort of overview of my career so far.
Yeah, in a way it does. And I would like to get 2 points here.
Yeah.
From what I gather, one is that in addition to your own industry means, when I say industry, I'm referring to hard work.
Yeah.
So in addition to the hard work that you must have been putting in right from the word go, I understand that you have always been blessed with a very good family, and the family support was always forthcoming, and I think the teaching community also supported you quite a lot, and that must have played a very big role in shaping you. But I still have one question.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I mean, you did it, as I said, maybe it's my prejudice, so I don't know, I shouldn't probably call it prejudice, for want of a better word, maybe, because I feel that without learning this brain, how does a child improve his sense of spelling and sense of punctuation in the school? Because these are the things which one has to improve learn in the school itself, right?
Yeah.
So how did you handle that? I mean,
Yeah. So, because I studied in the mainstream school, while it certainly had its advantages in terms of integration and learning how to operate in the sighted world, as it were, it also had its disadvantages. And the main disadvantage for me was that I did not acquire the specialized skills that you need in order to be able to thrive, as a blind person. So that included both not receiving mobility training, but also braille and assistive technology also initially I did not learn. But on your specific question as to braille, so let me first explain how I dealt with spelling and punctuation, and then talk a little bit about my sort of interaction with braille. So I initially used to really struggle a great deal with that. I still remember in class 8th. I mean, I haven't shared this story before, but now that you've asked me, in class 8th, I was once there was a spelling test that was conducted in which I participated, and in class, and I secured only 2 marks out of 5 in that test. So I could only get 4 out of 10 spellings right, and I misspelled words like pneumonia, diarrhea, and so on. And my spelling was quite poor, punctuation also initially, but then when I started using assistive technology more, I began paying conscious
Pause.
attention.
Voice memos. Voice memos. Card
to-
overlay. Half screen. Button. Pause. Button.
I began paying conscious attention to how words were spelled, reading them character by character with JAWS, and also typing things out and then getting them checked or checking them myself to make sure that I was able to spell correctly. For punctuation, again, after a point of using a screen reader, you come to understand how, like, where with different punctuation marks are to be put. And that's kind of intuitively I was able to grasp that to a large extent. To be honest, even now sometimes I struggle with spelling, especially with homophones and such, but by and large I have gotten fairly good at it, I would say. And then to your question about braille, because I did not learn braille early on, that has actually been a huge disadvantage. Like, even now in the law, one of the things that you are really required to do is to be able to read things out as it is, right, verbatim, and with JAWS you can't really do that very well. And I have realized that is a significant handicap that I still face, and therefore I have been learning braille in the last 2 to 3 years. I'm still not very good at it, but I'm getting there.
That's that. But tell me, Rahul, how come you give us, the so-called seniors and elderly people, so much inferiority? You know what? One may not be honest enough to admit, but the kind of articulation skills that you have, and the profundity with which you analyze, because I've been interacting with you for 5-6 months, and I realized that at least I cannot take you lying down. I am sometimes amazed, and I don't remember if I have come across any other person or too many blind persons like that in the country or even across the globe, who are so very articulate and so analytically strong. In fact, in the very beginning, let me tell you, when I started interacting with you, and I think I revealed it to you once or twice.
Yeah.
And initially I felt that this fellow has so much of intellectual arrogance, but that was actually my misreading, and I'm really sorry about it. But that's how it happened initially. I kind of didn't quite understand you the way I should have understood. But then and thanks to you, you kept on this contact, and as a result of which the realization dawned on me that you were right. I think we the seniors, be it the juniors, should have the moral courage to admit fact as it is. Now, let me ask you one significant question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had a reasonably solvent family, supportive family.
Yes.
Where, your parents are educated, your siblings are educated, right?
Yes.
But what does that a sizable chunk of the blind live in, they live in they live in abject people talk of inclusive education. Maybe we'll have a separate session some other day on this.
Yes.
Today we may not get into it because then this entire session, the entire downtime will be consumed in it. But
Yeah.
what do the other children whose parents are on very moderate means or even poor means? What do they do? Should they send the children to mainstream school where they would learn nothing? In my opinion, or should they send the school, if possible, to the extent possible, to a blind school? Yeah, rather than not sending their children to any school, of course, it's better to send them somewhere. There, I agree. What do you say?
Yeah, so at the outset, let me say that you are absolutely right in saying that I have lived in fairly privileged conditions for a blind person, especially in India, in terms of having access to financial resources that I needed to sort of tide over to tackle to deal with whatever disability related challenges I had. Being able to purchase screen reading technology, having access to
Screen time.
transport, sighted people who could provide me whatever guidance, whatever support I needed. So, in that sense, yes, I have been quite privileged. But to answer sort of your question, I would say key part of it, I think, is
No, but
being.
I want to embarrass you. How come you give us a lot of inferiority, especially the elder?
That I don't really think is true. I mean, it's kind of you to say that, but I'm not sure how true that is. But I think this is a huge issue, and I'm not even sure that I am, because of the conditions that I have been brought up in, that I'm kind of well equipped to understand what the unique challenges are of people who are who have to live with far more limited means. But I will still say that I think the issue of mainstream versus special education, of course, it's a different debate in and of itself. But in today's world, with screen reading technology being where it is and being freely available, for example, NVDA, and I don't think your absence of economic resources should really come in the way of you being able to pursue what you want to. I mean, to an extent, realistically speaking, कुछ limitations तो हैं which we can't wish away, जो financially, if you are well off, you can deal with. Despite that, I think, if you are really committed, and hardworking, and I know people who have studied in mainstream environments with limited means and have done it really well. So I don't think one should dismiss the possibility of that happening.
Card overlay. Pause. Button. Duration. 18 minutes. Pause. Button.
What we will do is that we will probably have a dedicated session on this because and we'll have a constructive discussion on this at a later date.
Absolutely.
But for now, before I put you on the driving seat,
Yeah.
I have two more questions. At
Sure.
least, unless a third immediately comes to my mind. Of course, if I want, I can. But the thing is that we have the time constraint.
Of course.
And more than me, perhaps you have the time constraint because I am a retired person. So for me, I am honest enough to admit that there's no problem at all. So anyway, two questions. One,
Yeah.
when you were studying in school in Nagpur and later in college in Nagpur, law college and all that,
Yeah.
how did your peers treat you?
Mm-hmm.
Your classmates, how did they treat you there? I mean, did they treat you in a manner which is condescending and patronizing, or did they treat you on an equal footing with them? Did they consider you as one amongst them, or did they think a little differently about you?
So I think in Nagpur, kind of growing up, I initially in the initial years when I was in school, I had very few and little to no friends, if I'm being honest, because a lot of things, a lot of times social sort of socializing happens organically in school, right? During recess time, or when you go out in games period and play on the ground and things like that, which I did not really do. So while I did well academically, I did feel fairly left out in school in other areas.
Airless stream. 4
Later
minutes ago.
on-
1992 recover from COVID-19. 14,320. Speech off.
I'm sorry about that. I've turned off this speech
No,
now.
you can speech off. You
Yes.
can put it on a speech off mode.
I have
Just
done
as
that.
I
Yes.
just as I do. Yeah.
Yes. So therefore I would say that this was a huge challenge that I encountered when I kind of, and I am by nature, while I'm not like fully an introvert, I am not someone who's very outgoing either. Like I have some really good friends who I'm kind of very close to and able to talk to freely with, but I'm not even a particularly outgoing person, and like someone who just go around striking up a conversation with every Tom, Dick and Harry. So therefore, in that sense, I think that was a challenge. But as I grew older, I began.
Can I intervene and say something in a lighter way?
Sure.
So if you are not very, if you are kind and not outgoing and an extrovert type of people, how are you going to get a girlfriend?
Yeah, well, time will tell. Time will tell. Not until now, but we will see.
Actually, this is actually an attempt to extract you whether you already have one.
No, I don't at this point, but we will see what happens going forward. Yeah. So but to kind of carry on what I was saying, I think but later on I began to realize that I really needed to kind of assert myself in terms of being able. So in the initial years in school, I was often put on the first bench where there would be nobody else, and in that sense also I would be isolated. Then I began making friends more. But to answer your question as to whether people were patronizing or able, or able to engage with me, I think like one came across all kinds of people. Some who would simply not talk to me, and for example, in school I used to go with a sighted person who would help me. They would talk to me, to her, not to me. Some people who would not invite me over for things because I think they just thought it would be too complicated to make things work. Those kinds of things did happen. I mean, if I think about it.
I think there couldn't be a more honest answer than this.
Yeah. And I particularly, part of it is also, I think, that when you are growing up as a person with a severe disability, you do have a lot of insecurities, let's face it, right? So even if sometimes somebody is not saying a particular thing to you because of your disability, or not inviting you because of it, you tend to feel that it is that way. And often it is that way also. So you can't really tell what the cause is. But on that front, I would say, as I've grown older, things have become easier, certainly much easier. Of course, there are a lot of challenges now also on the socializing front, and we can talk about them maybe going forward, but they have gotten easier, that's for sure.
Okay, now actually I have quite a few other questions also, but then let me at least ask you one question.
Sure.
So when you got selected for this Rhodes Scholarship, how do you spell it? RHODES?
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
So I just hazarded a guess, actually.
Yes.
So when you got selected for the Rhodes Scholarship,
Yeah.
you must have felt ecstatic. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Yes.
No. You must have felt ecstatic.
Yes.
And at the same time, you must have also felt nervous because it's a kind of a transition,
Yeah.
You had to go alone. You have to stay alone in a very different, in a strange and different environment.
Absolutely.
How did you feel and how did you kind of handle that? Briefly, tell me.
Yeah, so I think that is absolutely true that it was. Of course, it was a huge honor when I got it in 2017. But then, I really began thinking after that as to how I was going to manage there, because until that point, I had never lived away from my family, let alone living away from them in a country 5,000 miles away from India. So, we began thinking very seriously as to how it could be done. So, I first went to England with my parents in May of 2018, few months before starting off, and the Rhodes Trust kind of had arranged for that trip. They said you should come and see how things are here. And so that really provided us a lot of confidence that I could manage on my own. And then my mother stayed with me for the first month after I got to Oxford as well. And I mean, I was really, really keen to stay alone and learn to fend for myself, being able to cook, travel independently, sort of look after myself in every way. So,
That's amazing.
so like, even though my family was, to be honest, quite resistant and initially a little quite worried about it also, eventually
It's
they,
natural.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But over a period of time, they came around and realized that this was an important, that they had to sort of step back a little in order for me to flourish, and that's how it happened.
So how were the peers there in Oxford?
On the whole, I would say they are much, much more sensitive, much more understanding, right from, people who describe images to you in whatever groups that you are part of on WhatsApp and so on. They provide an image description to people who make sure that they reach out to you. For example, if you have to go somewhere together and you don't know the way that well, to people who make the effort to make whatever, like, say, recreational things they're doing, if they are playing cards or whatever, to make that accessible. So people on the whole are much more understanding, but then that is not to say that one doesn't feel left out and excluded because of one's disability. Still, I mean, in large social gatherings, for example, parties, you still feel quite left out because you don't know what is happening. People tend to go around on their own sometimes, but on the whole, I would say the really good friends that I have formed are very sensitive and far more understanding about these issues than people I had met until that point in my life.
Would you like to share anything other than what I have asked so far?
Yeah, maybe one thing I would like to share, which is, you said in the beginning that that I am the first totally blind person in India to get the road. So,
Am I wrong?
no, you are right about that. But I just wanted to share sort of an interesting anecdote on that front. So there is actually one other person who began going blind from India when they got the roads in a few years ago. I won't name them, of course, but the interesting thing was that they did not tell the Rhodes Trust that they had been diagnosed, because they thought that would result in the scholarship being taken away from them. And that gentleman even said to me when I met him that his own father-in-law does not know about the fact that he is blind, because he thought that might
Oh my God.
call into question his marriage if he were to find out about it. So that is just to show that even you might think that, look, you've achieved so much external success, then you would,
That's very unfair. That's very unfair.
yeah. So
Anyway, now
Yes.
Rahul, since I think we are, I think I mean our time is almost. I think
Speech on.
maybe halfway
Card overlay.
or
Pause.
more.
Duration 29 minutes.
yes,
Pause.
we are
Button.
at the halfway mark. Yes.
I know that as I said, you hardly
Switch off.
find yourself as a use it from dawn to dusk. We will sometimes, depending on your availability and suitability, I would expect that you keep coming on my show in the larger interest of persons with disabilities.
Absolutely, I would be very happy to.
And in the bargain, I will also secretly benefit.
Yes.
Now the thing is, if you want to ask me anything, I mean on any issue,
Absolutely.
don't put any difficult questions, because I
No.
cannot be able to answer difficult questions. But simpler questions you have, you can put those questions. I'll try to answer.
Bilkul. So the first question that I have is, about what you feel about how, because we have been talking a lot about how things are for the disabled, in India versus the West in terms of my own experience of living here versus living there. So you have also, I'm sure, in your sort of long years of working in this field and also more generally traveled a fair bit abroad and come in contact with disabled people in the West and with the support systems that they have. So,
Now, let me first of all clarify that I'm not, though I have traveled extensively within the country, I have not traveled extensively abroad, except that maybe 5-6 times I've been to US and 2-3 times to Bangkok and probably once or twice, probably to Kathmandu.
yeah,
So these are the few places where I travel, and the visits, most of them, I mean, particularly my visits to US were private visits, and you are aware that my daughter is there
Yeah.
in New York.
yeah, yeah.
Now, my experience there
Yeah.
with regard, and I will not be able to do justice to a comparative analysis of how the disabled are treated here and how the persons with disabilities are treated there.
Yeah.
But I can give you a very, very limited and narrow, based on very limited input or information or personal experience rather
Yeah.
that I had. And one is that somewhere I feel, I don't know, I may be wrong, and I stand to be corrected.
Yeah.
I feel that just as you said, and I do agree, that's your experience, and I'm happy to hear it, that in Oxford you found people more sensitive and all of that. But in US, of course, I never, I know I went to Harvard and all that just for a few, for a couple of hours. And so
Yeah.
there it's difficult to understand. Now, what I want to say is that my own impression is that though it's very, particularly US, for example, I've never been to London, I've never been to UK.
Yeah.
Now, US, of course, is a developed country, and they have advanced technology and everything. And I saw certain small things that when you hire a cab, the back of the front seat has a slip attached plate where emergency number is given at the cab number, the car number is also given. So those are fine.
Yeah.
Those are things which you will not get in India. But I feel somewhere, and I think I should not extrapolate, perhaps saying, nevertheless, this is an impression that people in India, my personal experience has been, people in India are more sensitive to persons with disabilities than people in the US. That's what I felt. I may be totally wrong. Because as I said, I have very limited understanding, and and somewhere I also have another very interesting observation to make, and I am sure you will ridicule me and laugh at me, and that is that even within the country here, I feel that persons who are relatively less educated, in the formal sense of the word, are more sensitive to persons with disabilities than those who are highly qualified. Now, I mean, of course, these are not, I don't have any stiff opinion. I'm willing to change all the time. But this is the impression that I carry right now.
Yeah.
So,
would you mind expanding a little on the first one, like on the sensitivity point where you say that you found people in India to be more sensitive? Like, why do you think that is so?
That's it. एक मैं आपको उदाहरण देता हूँ, छोटा सा.
Yes.
See, when I was working as a principal in a government school for the blind in Jorhat, Upper Assam, long back. So I went on an official tour to Guwahati.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a time when Congress was ruling Assam.
Yeah.
And I stayed in a modest hotel because during those days we used to get बहुत कम पैसे मिलते थे TADA जिसको बोलते हैं ट्रैफिक अलाउंस, रेलवे अलाउंस बहुत कम मिलता था. ठीक है. So from there I called up the minister. I wanted to see the social welfare minister.
Yeah.
And उनके बारे में ये कहा जाता था कि वो क्लास 6 तक पढ़े हुए थे, और कई लोग तो यहाँ तक कहते थे कि वो बड़े दादा टाइप के थे, और ये उन्होंने एक बार मुझे दिखाया भी था कि वो अपने कमर में एक रिवॉल्वर रखते थे हमेशा. ठीक है. And he studied up to class 6.
Yeah.
तो मैंने उनको फोन किया कि सर मैं आया हूँ वहाँ गुवाहाटी में पंडित बाजार में मयूर होटल पे रुका हुआ हूँ.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I want to meet you, so when should I come?
Yeah.
तो उन्होंने कहा आपको आने की जरूरत नहीं है. You don't have to come. I will send my PA with a car. आपको वो ले जाएगा, मेरे यहाँ लाएगा और आप मेरे साथ मिलने के बाद आपको वापस छोड़ के आएगा.
Yeah.
No minister usually would do this.
Right.
Now I said that this minister, who is otherwise known as a Dada and all that,
Yeah.
he was so kind and he understood my difficulty. And obviously, if I had gone there, I would have had to बहुत धक्के खाने पड़ते मुझे उस मंत्री के पास तक पहुंचने में मुझे काफी मशक्कत करनी पड़ती.
Absolutely.
Like, I would have had to really, I mean, put in lot of effort. I would have been able to do that though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just one interesting example that has come to my mind. There are quite a few others of them also.
Yeah.
But then I repeat that perhaps it is not right to generalize things, but these are some of the impressions that I mean, traces, you can say, which are still there and which have stayed in my memory.
Yeah, I think especially in I mean, to an extent I would agree with you, because I think in Britain especially, you know, the people in general, I think, of course, at the risk of kind of again generalizing, people are more closed
Actually,
off.
almost now, quite in contrast.
Yeah.
Usi Assam, there was one minister, I will not name him, he later on became the chief minister.
Uh-huh.
So when I met him, he was the education minister.
Yeah.
And there was another colleague with me, he was also blind.
Yeah.
So हम जब दोनों उनसे मिलने के लिए गए, when we went, and he said, no, for this you have to go and see the social welfare minister.
Yeah.
So मैंने कहा, sir, can you do us a favor? In the same building, same office,
Right.
I said, can you ask someone, your peon or somebody, to guide us through the chamber of this social welfare minister? You know what he replied? And he was a professor
Yeah.
in a college. He
Yeah.
said, मेरे पास जिस तरह से आए वो अपने आप उसी तरह से जाओ.
Acha.
Now this is the comparison. जो एक क्लास 6th तक पढ़ा हुआ था, class he studied up to the 6th grade, and this fellow must have been at least a master degree holder. So this is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does. I see why you may think that way. Let me ask you then another question, which is, how far do you think sometimes, like, people are well intentioned when it comes to dealing with the disabled, but they offer, you know, far too much help. Now, for example, you have shared with me in the past a story of your experience of traveling by an airplane where they kind of wanted to feed you food and stuff like that. So would you mind sharing what your experience has been of people who are well intentioned but try to go a little too far?
Yeah. तो एक बार की बात है कि और इसी के साथ शायद हम कंक्लूड करेंगे.
Okay. Yes.
अगर एक बार क्या हुआ कि
Speech on. Pause. Button. Duration. 38 minutes. Pause. Button.
There was a time when I had to undertake a lot of air travel domestic.
Speech off.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was working with an international agency called International Non-Governmental Agency called Action Aid.
Yeah.
Right? So, you see what happened was, suppose the departure time is 6 o'clock, and even if I go to the airport at 4 o'clock or 3:30,
Yeah.
they would still put me at the rearmost seat.
Yeah.
Now, ordinarily I have no issues. You can put me wherever you like. I mean, I need to reach my destination.
Yeah.
But I was out of curiosity. I would ask them, क्यों middle में या आगे seat नहीं है? Aren't there seats in the middle or in the front?
Yeah.
They would say, no, sir. Actually, seats are there, but we can't give you there. I said, I would say why? Actually, the thing is that we will be near the toilet and we will be closer to you. So I said, but why are you correlating my toileting habits with my blindness? I don't enjoy sitting near the toilet. I can walk across to the toilet.
Yeah.
And I said, no, but sir, there is another issue. If there is an emergency evacuation, then we'll be closer to you. Then I said 2-3 things here. I said, tell me with your hand on your heart, And I said, we would say, I said, get lost, don't tell me all this. The instinct of survival in human beings is so strong
Yeah.
that you will say, and another thing I asked, I said, tell me one thing. If 100 blind people charter a plane
Hmm.
to go for a conference somewhere,
Yeah.
now in the rear you have only 2 seats. Where are you going to accommodate the rest of them?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every time I would argue, then they would bring their senior, they would say there is a rule. I would say show me the rule. Then they say no, this is an internal document. I said don't give me this bullshit.
Yeah.
What is internal? Sorry for using this word.
No, that's
I said,
fine. Yeah.
I said you are depriving me of something, quoting that. I
Yeah.
have a right to know what it is.
Yeah.
They would not. So one day what I did was, I was flying from Calcutta to Guwahati and I had a friend, colleague with me. So I said, look here. And that colleague was from Nagaland.
Yeah.
I said, today, my friend, we are going on a walk. We'll go early. I went early. And then the same thing happened. अच्छा, पहले क्या होता था? When I would argue and reason out with them, then finally they would put me they would promote me to the business class.
Yeah.
Put me on the front. They say that we can either put you on the front or in the back.
Yeah.
In the rearmost. I mean, so I felt that every time I have to go and get a fight, and my fight was against the principle. I didn't mind sitting in the rear seat.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. Now finally, that day I went and same thing happened when I argued with her. Someone called her or his senior, then with that or senior also I argued. And finally, after a lot of reasoning, she brought this book.
Yeah.
I said, you give me a photostat copy of this rule on payment. I will make payment.
Yeah.
She said, no, we are not allowed to give photostat copy. I said, why? This is strange. Then I asked my sighted colleague who was accompanying. I said, by hand you make a copy this one.
Yeah.
He copied this. After I came back to Guwahati, I filed a complaint with the office of the chief commissioner, and that was probably in 2006.
Yeah.
Little knowing that by the end of 2011, I will myself become the chief commissioner.
Yeah.
So then, as a result of that, the DGC had to revise the guidelines, and the other persons with disabilities and groups also got involved. And now today, these days, you have very progressive guidelines in place. Very progressive guidelines in place, actually.
Yeah.
Where, apart from the emergency seats, you can be sitting anywhere. Now,
Yeah.
one more example I will give, and then probably will conclude.
Absolutely.
And that example is that, once I was traveling from one place to another, and as I sat on the plane, there was a fellow passenger. He must have looked at me, I presume. And then he finally hesitatingly said, excuse me, sir, are you blind? I said, yes. And then he says, but how come you are flying?
Yeah.
I said, but I'm not the pilot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and even if you dump a cargo, it will anyway also reach its destination. So I am anyway a human being.
Yeah.
And then comes the crew, one of the crew, the hostess. Sir, here is the call button, here is the seat belt, here is that. Then she said, shall I tie the seat belt? I said, no, I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
No, sir, I will tie it. No, sir, out of concern actually, she was. I said, no, I can do it on my own. She was very insistent, and I said, okay, if you are so keen, do it. So she did it. After that, when the flight took off, and then when the service commenced, she said, sir, veg or not veg? I said, veg. He brings the food. Shall I open it? I said, yes. Shall I fix it? I said, yes. Finally, she said, shall I feed you? Will you get lost? Then will you chew it also for me?
Yes.
So this is it.
Yes.
So
What do you think about this, what people call the chair syndrome, where whenever someone blind kind of passes them, they just open, they just make a chair available for them. They just try to...
this is again another experience, you see. And this used to happen with me, particularly when I would be in conferences and meetings and during lunch breaks and tea breaks.
Yeah.
People would come and literally force you to sit.
Yeah.
Now other people are standing and eating. Sometimes I also want to stand
Yeah.
Now they would say, so then after that in action meetings, in senior management team meetings, I had to say this finally. I said, look, you should not deprive a person with a disability of his freedom to make his own choice.
Yeah.
All you can do is you can say, Prasanna, they used to address me by my first name.
Yeah.
All you can say is that, Prasanna, there are empty chairs. If you wish to sit, you can sit.
Absolutely.
It's a choice with me, right? So,
Yeah.
I used to feel that probably some of them subconsciously equate blindness or disability with sickness. They probably feel that I'm very uncomfortable standing, or I'll probably fall down and things like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that kind of thoughtfulness about what type of support one should provide is really lacking. So either there is no support at all and people completely turn their back to you, or they sometimes go overboard in providing, you support.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think, Rahul, we run out of it. I wish this conversation had gone on and
Yes,
on and on.
yes,
And you have really
yes.
made it very interesting.
Yes.
And I would like you to, I know that you have a lot of commitments and you are actually preparing for your professional life.
Yes.
And as an elderly person, you have my blessings
Yes,
and
thank
my
you.
good wishes. You will always have that.
Mhm.
But whenever you have a little time, please do come on my show.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining my show. And I really thank you so much. So much.
Speech on.
I initially thought I would make it bilingual, but then actually if I had made it bilingual, we wouldn't have been able to cover a lot of, so much of ground.
Yeah.
Maybe let's see if I can put a summary in Hindi, or I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, or maybe we can, going forward, do another conversation exclusively in Hindi. I wouldn't mind that either, to compensate for this.
That's a great idea. We will probably do that. So whenever you are free,
Yes.
you tell me, we'll do that. I am anyways free.
Yes,
So
yes.
you have to ask me, when are you busy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of asking
Other
me
way
when
around.
you're free,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you know what? I often say,
Mhm.
some people actually pretend to be very busy. So I often say that, and it is my own, I quote myself, it has been my settled conviction that only busy people can find one.
Right.
That's what I often say. Anyways,
Yes.
so far so good. Thank you so much, Rahul.
Okay, alright, thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Pause. Button.
Yes.